But now I would like to take the opportunity to discuss 3 issues that I think should be on top of your agenda. I think some of them already are, but I would like to discuss 3 issues. One is corporate governance of banks. How will that function in the future? Have you taken your responsibilities as owners of banks, and how will you do it in the future? That's the first one. The second one is executive pay, a favorite subject for all shareholders. And the third one is the relation between asset owners, your clients, and yourself, asset managers. So I want to focus on these three issues. And I'm not pretending to have any answers here. I think we really need to have a discussion about these 3 issues, how to find new solutions, because I think you can agree with me that we can't be content with the corporate governance of the banks in the world, or executive pay, or the relationship between asset owners and asset managers when it comes to not only governance issues, but also in the ENDSs. The first thing I want to talk about then is really governance of banks. And I think it's quite easy to understand the spinal reaction from the G20, the Financial Stability Board, the Basel Committee, and IOSCO to the global financial crisis in 2009 and all the consequences. Of course, you had to regulate a lot of things, and we all know that there's a tremendous wave of regulations coming towards the financial industry, including yourself, but also major financial institutions like banks. But I think we all know that this major push for regulation has meant that there are some unintended consequences. And one is about the role of shareholders when it comes to banks. Through G20 and the Financial Stability Board and IOSCO and down to the national regulators are now supposed to monitor and really decide on remuneration when it comes to banks and financial institutions. In the same way, the national regulators are actually approving board members for banks and other financial institutions. And that means that the regulators have taken over 2 duties that belongs to shareholders, things that we as shareholders vote on AGMs. And I think that is extremely unfortunate, because that disincentivizes people like you, or asset managers, or asset owners actually to take responsibility when it comes to corporate governance or governance of banks. And that is something that must be addressed. And we are working a lot at ICGN with this issue, and I hope that we can present some initiatives that will partly solve this problem. As I said, I understand the spinal reaction from G20, FSB, IOSCO, and the Basel Committee, because, to be honest, the behavior of the institutional investor community before the global financial crisis was not very impressive. I mean, we all know that I confess I was part of it when I was at the Swedish National State Pension Fund. We actually thought that some banks had too much equity and so forth. So I think in hindsight, it's quite obvious that the institutional investor community didn't take their shareholder responsibilities in a good way heading up to the global financial crisis. And I think there's a good reason for that, because banks are different. It's different, it's much more complicated and subtle to understand credit quality, risk appetite, and other, let's call it bank-related issues as an owner. And I say that I don't think there is one institutional investor in the world that actually can act as a responsible investor of a bank as of today. So here we need to build a critical mass to help you and your members and the asset owners actually to understand what the capital requirements really mean, what is risk appetite, credit quality, and so forth, in order to be able to act as responsible owners. And I don't think that regulation on itself is good enough for stewardship of banks. Next subject, which is executive pay. And let me start to say that I want good people should be adequately compensated. They should have good pay packages. So this is not about that. Okay. But I think it is a sign of systematic failure that the only cost that have been constantly going up for the last 20 years for us shareholders is the cost of executive management. And well, you can try to challenge me on this one, but I think that it is a sign of systematic failure. And why is that? Yes, the reason is, there are several reasons according to me for this. Inadequate hiring practices is number one. You know how it works. The chairman of the board has one CEO candidate, and of course he's the best one. He's the top quartile guy. Well, unfortunately, not very often a woman. And the top quartile guy, he must be paid in an adequate way. The top quartile, of course, and that is part of this inflation in executive pay worldwide. Skillful pay consultants paid by management is another explanation, and uninformed investors is another explanation. I think it's good that we now have mandatory say on pay in 8 markets, so in Australia, UK, Germany, Norway, Sweden, United States. The good news is that the investors in these markets are better equipped to take a discussion about executive pay. I think it's fair to say that inadequate pay structures, pay for failure, are less common nowadays in these markets. But we can't see that the executive pay inflation is still what is the same thing as that's been going on for the 20 last years. The only way is up. And we, as investors, we have to be careful so we do not end up in a situation like in the Premier League football in the UK. And you know exactly how it looks like there. The players get everything and the owners get nothing, more or less. That was about executive pay. And I think we really need input from you, the asset owners, but also from the corporates to solve this problem. Because I don't think that if you ask the average CEO or the average member of the executive management on big companies, they think this is a problem too. So in the third subject that I want to bring up, I want to talk about the relation between you or your members as asset managers and the asset owners. How do you know how you should take ESG issues into account when it comes to your investment policy, how you carry out your services for your clients? How do you do that? And I think I can offer you some help and inspiration here, and maybe you can help us to promote our model mandate initiative, where we actually try to present a model mandate where the asset owners actually present exactly what they want from the asset managers when it comes to, let's call it, responsible investment or ESG factors. About corporate governance of banks, we talked about executive pay, the relation between asset managers and owners, and I think I sort of know what you're thinking now, and that is that we can't be the Mother Teresas of the world. We can't solve all these problems. I mean, that's not our job. We are here to, of course, take ESG considerations into this, but sorry, but we can't, and it sounds costly as well. And it must take a lot of resources to do this and to solve all these problems. And I don't think you should try to be Mother Teresa, and quite frankly, I think you would be quite good, quite bad at it. And that's not your job. But it is your duty to protect your beneficiaries or your clients' assets. And you can do that by working together in organizations like IIFA or ICGN, or in other constellations together with your members. And it's quite easy to educate your members in the basics of governance issues, but also the E and the S's. I can promise you, it will not cost you or your members a lot of money, and the return of investment is very good, both when it comes to the investments in themselves, but also from a marketing point of view. And it's good for the markets, and that's good for you. So, I want to conclude. We have made a lot of progress. Better shareholder rights in the US, Asia and Europe. Better minority protection globally, but there's still a lot more to be done. Corporate governance of banks, executive pay, and how to execute your shareholder responsibilities. We must work together, and I think that you, the people in this room, the IIFA, and all the other acronyms that are represented here, the ICGN, and that we together can do it. Thank you.